Say Christ is Lord. Say Christ is Lord. Say it.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Unpopular Opinion, and today I'm going to be talking about the second Superman movie right after the first movie. In fact, much like these movies, I'm filming this back-to-back the same time that I filmed my Superman review. So, let's get into it. Guys, my opinion on Superman 2, I think this movie was a disaster. I don't like this movie. I think it had so many things that could have made it the greatest superhero movie of all time, but it was sabotaged by its own production crew, and there's one awful plot device that to me just soured the whole thing. So let's just get into it. So guys, Superman 2 takes place almost immediately after the first Superman movie. In fact, it was filmed back to back, much like the Lord of the Rings movies or Back to the Future Part 2 and 3. It was filmed at the same time the first Superman movie was being filmed. And the plot is Superman, he accidentally frees General Zod and two of his minions from the Phantom Zone. That one opening scene in the first movie where General Zod's banished to the Phantom Zone, it directly ties to the sequel. Superman frees them and they come to Earth, they wreak havoc, and they have to have a battle royale. All the while, Superman has to wrestle with his feelings for Lois Lane. He has to, am I going to serve humanity or be Lois Lane's perfect man? And that's the whole plot of the movie. Now guys, there's a lot of behind the scenes things that really complicates my opinion of the movie. So remember when I said that the film was filmed almost concurrently with the first Superman movie? Well, that's not entirely true. So Richard Donner was the original director of the first and second movie. They filmed like 75% of the film before they decided to halt production and to finish the first movie. So they wanted to finish production on the first movie and then release it and then come back to the movie at a later time, which is understandable. But unfortunately, Richard Donner was fired and was replaced, and he didn't come back to finish the movie. And that decision to fire him was extremely controversial, and it caused a lot of problems. A lot of the cast were really upset. There were some cast members who actually didn't even come back to finish the movie. And then Marlon Brando, he didn't allow any of his scenes or his footage to be used for the second movie. So he's out of the movie, and it creates a little weird vacuum without him. They hired a new director, Richard Lester, and he was told if he wants full solo director credit, because Richard Donner's like, I'm not sharing credit for this movie, he would have to film 50% of the movie on his own. Minimum. So that caused them to change the ending. It caused him to not only have to finish the last quarter of the film that wasn't filmed, but they went back and redid the beginning, and then the footage that Richard Donner had already filmed, he altered, and it was just so bad. So a lot of the criticisms and attacks I'm going to be talking about is mostly about the theatrical release, because there is a Richard Donner cut. I think that's the better of the two movies. I'm going to be talking about the Richard Donner cut too, but overall, I think there's one plot device in the movie that really ruins the film. But I'm going to get to that later on. So anyway, the quality of this movie is not even close to the quality of the first movie. Like, the first movie had great visuals, amazing sound quality, amazing composition, musical score by John Williams. This movie didn't really have that. So John Williams didn't return for this movie, but he did allow his music to be used in it, but it doesn't sound the same. It sounds like it was recorded and composed by someone else with his original music. So what was an awesome score for the first movie, and this movie sounds like a Walmart version of that. Like, you've got the awesome John Williams theme, and then someone else of lesser skills and lesser quality is playing it, and it doesn't sound the same. It just sounds weird. And plus, there's a lot of weird contrasting colors between this movie and the original. Like, the original movie was full of colors, had a lot of beautiful visuals to it, high quality footage, and this one, it's weird. Like, the Fortress of Solitude had a green tint to it, kind of looking like, I don't know, the Emerald City in Wizard of Oz. And not to mention, like, in the original theatrical release, there's a lot of really, really silly moments that are pretty goofy that I don't really think should have been in the film. Like, there was a scene in the fight scene between Zod and Superman where Superman was grappling with one of the minions, and then the woman Kryptonian was about to hit Superman, and he breaks free and bam, hits the other dude. I thought that was so lame. I thought that was terrible. And then actually one thing that really, really bothers me is this. Well, Gene Hackman's in the movie. I'm a massive fan of Gene Hackman. He's one of my favorite actors. He's actually my third favorite actor of all time.
Hey, that's the Chief's. The Chief's got it.
I'm glad he was in this movie, but here's the thing. I don't really think his part in the film was necessary, to be honest. It would have been cool to have like a cameo, but it was weird having him be in the movie when it could have just been a Zod movie. General Zod was a great villain. Terrence Stamp was doing an amazing job, and then Lex Luthor was kind of just there.
You should see the White House. I've been cleaning it for months.
Lex Luthor.
Wouldn't you know it?
And it it didn't really flow well. But the problem is, Gene Hackman was one of the few actors who didn't come back for the reshoots. So all of his scenes were filmed under Richard Donner, which caused a big problem. So remember how I said that Richard Lester had to do at least 50% of the movie to get full credit for the film? Well, he altered a lot of Richard Donner's footage, and he also altered a lot of Gene Hackman's performance. So we see Gene Hackman on screen, but a lot of his dialogue was actually dubbed. So they had a body double and a voice actor to stand in for the scenes that they needed where he wasn't able to come back, which is understandable. But the scenes where you see Gene Hackman talking and he's, you know, performing and you see his lips moving, but the words are coming out of his mouth, it sounds nothing like him. And it sounds horrible. I think it hurts the quality of the performance. I think it hurts the quality of the film. I thought that was terrible. That was absolutely terrible about this movie.
He did it to them. I mean, the lights were on out here while he was safe in there.
He did it to them. The lights were on out here while he was safe in there.
In fact, like, he did that a lot. Like, Richard Lester went back, and you can actually tell what was original Richard Donner footage, and you can tell what was Richard Lester, because if you look at some of the actors don't look the same. There's a lot of inconsistencies between their actors' physical appearance or their clothes. Like, it pings pong back and forth between, okay, this was shot by Richard Donner, oh, this was clearly shot by Lester, and it goes back and forth, and that inconsistency and that incongruency or like the continuity, it just looks really sloppy in my opinion. It looks really, really sloppy.
You're a real pain in the neck.
And even when the dialogue is going on and people are talking, it just sometimes sounds horrible. Like the gunfire effects in the original theatrical version are terrible. So I'm not into it. I'm not into it at all. And I think this is the plot device to me that really ruined the movie. So Superman his identity is found out by Lois Lane. So Lois Lane is able to discover who Superman really is. Clark Kent and Superman are in fact one person. She finds this out. So Superman confesses his feelings for her, and they spend time together in the Fortress of Solitude. Now, depending on which version of the movie you watch, whether it's the Richard Donner cut or the original cut, Superman consults the artificial intelligence machinery that was given to him in the Fortress of Solitude, where one of his parents, be it his mother in the original or his father in the Richard Donner cut. Basically, he's saying, I want to spend my life with her. I'm in love with her. What should I do?
I've tried to anticipate your every question. This was one I'd hoped you would not ask.
He's told that it is a selfish thing for you to do if you want to have a girlfriend or be a father or have this woman in your life.
Selfish?
It's very selfish of you to commit your full time, all your compassion, all your feelings onto one person, because much like how it says in the Bible, you can't serve two masters. You're not going to be able to serve humanity and be a loyal, dutiful husband at the same time. Not only will Lois be a weakness for your enemies to exploit to hurt you and you're putting her in danger, but you're also compromising the safety of humanity by having a relationship, and it's going to be a distraction. So if you have to choose, you can either be Superman or you can be a human being. But if you choose to be with Lois Lane, you have to give up your powers.
Once this is done, there's no going back. You will feel like an ordinary man, and you can be harmed like an ordinary man.
And that to me made no sense whatsoever. That made no sense whatsoever. I get that they're trying to amp up the drama and the inner conflict in Superman, but he has this chamber, a molecule chamber, that exposes him to the red sun of Krypton, and it's basically like gold kryptonite. If you're exposed to it, your powers are gone forever, and he loses his powers, and he'll become a normal human being who can get hurt like a normal human being. So really, Superman makes the dumb decision of going like, yep, I'll do it, and he depowers himself so he can be in a relationship with Lois Lane.
Think on that. I beg you.
Father, I love her.
I didn't like that at all. That actually really, really bothered me. And let me tell you why. As I said in my originals, like my first Superman video, I don't like the relationship between Lois Lane and Superman. Like I said, no offense to Margaret Kidder. She's not a good-looking woman, and I don't know why Clark Kent likes her, but she only likes Superman for Superman, not for Clark Kent. So when she finds out that Superman is Clark Kent, it's like, well, I didn't like you for Clark Kent. I liked you for Superman, and now you gave up your powers, the one thing that I really liked you for. That was a stupid move. Imagine if you're like a high-profile lawyer with a great career and a lot of money, and you get the girl of your dreams, and you're like, you know what? I can't be a good lawyer and a husband at the same time. I quit my job, you can have my money. That might be cool for like a week or two, but the girl's gonna be like, dude, I really liked the fact that you were a lawyer and had all this money. It's not going to work. Same thing with Lois Lane and Superman. It's just not going to work. So he gives up his powers for a dumb, bogus reason, and then he goes to like a diner and he gets beat up by a trucker. And the thing is, this wasn't a normal beatdown. It was like a humiliating, like the guy basically, I don't even want to say it because it's inappropriate, but like the guy just really beats Superman and embarrasses him.
Blood. It's my blood. I think maybe we ought to hire a bodyguard from now on.
Now, if you're a guy, you know exactly what I'm talking about. No one likes losing a fight. No guy likes getting beaten up. It's an embarrassing thing to be beaten up by another man. But being beaten up in front of your girlfriend, that's probably the most embarrassing thing, the most humiliating thing any guy can ever go through. It's just, it makes you look so weak.
I want the man I fell in love with.
I wish you were here.
And Superman never looked so weak. I thought it was so bad, so stupid. Now let me tell you why I think this is stupid. I have a very good reason why I think this is an unnecessary plot device just for some extra phony drama. Listen, the Superman broke the rules before and there were no consequences to this. Like when he was sent to Earth, his father Jor-El said there's guidelines and rules that you have to abide by because you're not a normal human being. You're gonna live amongst them, but you can't do certain things. And if you break these rules, that's bad.
Even though you've been raised as a human being, you are not one of them.
But he broke the rules in the first movie because the main rule...
It is forbidden for you to interfere with human history.
It's forbidden for you to interfere with human history. What does he do? In the first movie, he goes back in time, he reverses the rotation of the Earth, and he saves Lois Lane from dying. She's dead, and he brought her back to life by changing and altering human history.
My son, it is forbidden for you to interfere in human history.
And guess what happened? Nothing. There was no consequences. There was no repercussions. Superman got away with it. The artificial intelligence AI, they didn't do anything about it. There were no consequences to this. So Superman went back in time I'd argue that going back in time and altering history for your own personal selfish purpose to save someone who you really like is a lot more severe and dire than saying, you know what? I choose both. I want a girlfriend, but I don't want to give up my powers. He didn't have to listen to that really bad advice. I think that was stupid advice. I think that was a dumb plot point that he could have just said, you know, hey, remember in the last movie when I disobeyed your orders and you didn't do anything about it? I'm going to do that again.
I do know, son, and that is you are here for a reason.
And also this idea that Superman can't be in a relationship, it's not consistent and it's not enforced in the sequels, because in Superman 3 he goes to his hometown and reconnects with his high school sweetheart. I didn't see the fourth movie, but I've seen clips from the fourth movie where he's flirting with this trainer, this athletic girl. I don't know, it seems like they're hinting at a relationship. So it's not like Clark Kent's not allowed to have girlfriends. It's like this, it's only featured in this movie, and all the other movies it's not enforced. And like I said, he broke the rules in the first movie in doing a much more dire thing. He could have broken the rules in this movie. It really made me think different of Superman. It made me think less of him. So like the fight between him and the trucker, it's like he didn't even put up a fight. I get it that he's weak. I get it that he's never had power without his powers. But like the dude, you didn't learn any kind of self-defense. You couldn't do anything to fight back against this guy. So when he fights against Zod and his minions and you see him throwing these haymakers and stuff, it's like, all right, you're good now because you have your powers and you can throw these punches, but you couldn't do that before. I don't know. Something I really hate. It really made me dislike this movie. So like I said, the problem with this movie is the fact that it was sabotaged by its own production crew. It was a disaster. And the Richard Donner cut, in my opinion, I like it a lot better than the original theatrical one, because not only is it originally what Richard Donner had planned for the most part, but it cuts out a lot of the silly scenes in the original. Like there was one scene, everybody knows this has been spoofed by Family Guy, when the villains go to the Fortress of Solitude and Superman just rips off his S and he throws it at the guy and it enshrines him for like 2 seconds. And they're like, whoa, what was that? That was so stupid. The Donner cut didn't feature that. They took that out. And then not for naught, I'm not a big comic book guy. I haven't really read the Superman comics, but even I know that they added a lot of powers that Superman didn't have to the movie. And I hated when they did that in the Disney Star Wars movie, so I'm being consistent. I thought that was stupid. Like the scene where like they're firing blue rays out of their hands. That's not a Kryptonian power. The scene where Superman is duplicating himself and making holograms. That's not a Superman power. Like, they vanish from sight, and he's like, boom, 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 showing up all over the place. Now, you can argue that's him moving so quick that he's appearing in multiple places at once, but I don't think so. I think it's supposed to be a little stupid. Giving him extra powers have made no sense. And I also hate the fact that he destroys the Fortress of Solitude at the end. It's like, wow, dude, like, this one decision for you to give up your powers and be in a relationship with Lois Lane really messed everything up. It's like, I don't think she was worth that sacrifice to begin with, but the fact that you had a relationship with her and it destroyed the machinery, like turning on this molecule chamber, destroyed the machinery and destroyed the technology in the Fortress of Solitude, and it's irreparably damaged, and then Lex Luthor's been there, so he's like, well, now I gotta destroy it. It's like, oh, that sucks. Imagine like burning down your childhood home because you had a bad breakup. It just sits wrong with me. I don't like that at all. But then even in the Richard Donner cut, like, he goes back in time and reverses the spin of the earth again, and then he puts Luthor back in prison. It puts the villains in the Phantom Zone, and it restores the damage to the Fortress of Solitude. So it's like it all meant nothing in the Richard Donner cut. Now, like I said, I prefer the Richard Donner version much more, but it doesn't mean it's good or anything like that. If anything, it's more of like a what could have been, as opposed to this is actually what it's supposed to be. Because there are a lot of scenes, or maybe not a lot, but there are scenes in the movie that weren't actually filmed as scenes, but rather they were test footage. The most iconic example is when Lois shoots Clark. That wasn't actually acted, or that wasn't actually properly filmed. That was more so test footage between the two actors as like audition tapes or whatever. But that's all they had, so they had to run with it. And then much like in the original, they had to have sometimes voice actors and body doubles play the parts that the characters couldn't come back for. So sometimes not as much or as bad as in the original, but sometimes you'll see like inconsistencies and continuity errors between how the actors looked or their clothes. But overall, I still think the Richard Donner version is better because the fight scene between Zod and Superman was so much better in the Richard Donner version. Taking away that really silly fight in the Fortress of Solitude in the Donner version was a lot better. And another thing I thought this was kind of stupid during the fight sequence was Superman is fighting with Zod and his minions, and then the woman taps him on his shoulder and he turns around and he's like ready to hit her. And she's like, what? You'd hit a woman?
What? You hit a woman?
And then the other guy comes and he just turns and cracks him. Which that was an awesome punch where he sends him flying. But it's like, dude, this woman's actively trying to kill you and she's a threat to humanity. There is absolutely no reason why you shouldn't be decking her, okay? You don't need to be a gentleman. She's a threat to humanity. She's trying to kill you. She's fighting you. You're good to hit her. I don't know. That's a nitpick, but he should have got her. However, there are some things in this movie that I did enjoy. I think Gene Hackman in the Richard Donner version, in the original form, was actually pretty solid.
As I explained to you before, I'm about the best there is.
Pretty energetic, uppity, fun.
Revenge!
Revenge! Now we're cooking, huh?
Like the scene with him in the White House was probably the best scene, where he comes waving the flag and he's like, I know the son of Jor-El, Jor-El, your jailer, and I can give him to you.
The son of Jor-El.
The son of Jor-El?
I said that, didn't I?
All I want in return, because the world's a big place, my needs are small. I just want Australia. We'll call it even.
First you must find him. And Lex Baby is the only one who knows where he is.
What do you want?
Australia.
And then in the movie, they're like, Lex Luthor, ruler of Australia.
Lex Luthor, ruler of Australia. Activate the machine.
I loved that. So Lex Luthor's bargaining for Australia.
I have this affinity for beachfront property.
Because he wants beachfront property. That is so cool.
The world is a big place. Thank goodness my needs are small.
And I even like the part where they're smashing up the Daily Planet. And the thing about Lex Luthor and these Kryptonians is they're only using him until they don't need him, and then they're gonna kill him. So Lex Luthor played his hand really bad in this movie.
Kill the rest, starting with him.
Wait.
He should have had like kryptonite in his pocket or something, because they're trying to kill him.
Don't you remember the White House? We had a few laughs there.
You ought to have that fixed.
And he keeps getting lucky because Superman keeps inadvertently saving him. And then even in the end, when they're in the Fortress of Solitude and it's like, all right, they're about to kill you. And Superman's like, listen, I can take away their powers. Get them in the chamber. Molecule chamber is like, don't go in there, General. It's a trap.
Don't go in there, General. It's a trap.
Luthor, you poisonous snake!
It's a molecule chamber. Makes people like you into people like me.
That's a molecule chamber. It makes people like you into people like me.
And he's all like, You've done well, Lex Luthor.
You've done well, Lex Luthor.
And then he's like, activate the machine, Lex Luthor, ruler of Australia. That was pretty awesome. I actually like the scene where Zod was fighting the army and destroying the town, or the scene in the White House when the army's trying to defend the president and it's like nothing they can do to stop these Kryptonians is working. And then Zod, he takes a rifle off of a soldier and he's having fun shooting him. So you see General Zod taking the Vietnam posture with the M16. I thought that was awesome. And it goes without saying, Terrence Stamp is an amazing villain. He was a great job. I thought he did amazing in this movie, which is kind of why I have mixed feelings about Lex Luthor being in the movie, because it's like, well, do we really need Lex Luthor? I get it. He played a part, but I don't know. And overall, I think how Superman defeated Zod in this movie was actually very genius. He knew Lex Luthor was going to double cross him. He knew Lex Luthor was going to try to trick Superman or to not play along. So Superman got into the molecule chamber, reversed the technology, exposed the bad guys to the light, took away their powers, and then he killed him. I thought that was brilliant. And the funny thing is, Superman kills General Zod in this movie. There's no question. He kills him. He crushes his hand. He throws him against the wall really hard, which any mortal would have died from that. And then he falls into a bottomless pit. So Superman kills Zod in 1980. Everyone's like, woo! Yeah! But he kills him in Man of Steel and everyone freaks out about it. I don't know. I just thought the ending was so satisfying, so cool. And then I love the scene where Superman and Lois are hugging and like, are you all right? And he's like, I knew you'd double-cross me, Luthor. A lying weasel like you couldn't resist the chance. And then Luthor's all trying to pretend like, no, I was with you the whole time. Do you see the way they fell into our trap? And he's all like, too late, Luthor. Too late. And then he's like, look, Superman, I got a proposition for you. I owe you one. We're in the North Pole, right? I loved how Luthor was trying to convince Superman that they were working together to defeat them, and he's like, oh, okay, my plan's backfired. So yeah, there were some pretty cool scenes. General Zod was amazing. Actually, the fight scene, like I said, the fight scene in the Richard Donner version is much better, and I think the coolest part of the fight was probably when Zod was all like, come to me, son of Jor-El, kneel before Zod, and he jumps out of the window.
Come to me, son of Jor-El! Kneel before Zod!
Because he was about to kill Lex Luthor because he didn't present Superman. And then Superman comes in and everyone's like, oh, it's Superman! And then Lex is like, Superman, thank God. I mean, get him! That was so funny.
Superman,
Thank God. I mean, get him!
And then the scene where he's all like, I'm not a coward, Zod. And he's like, it is merely likely that you are a fool. And then he throws the thing at him like, then die as you deserve to.
Then die as you deserve to!
And then Superman shoots it with his heat vision and it blows up and he recoils from the blast. It's like, that was just super cool. But that's not enough for me to like the movie. You know, the ending was cool, but the fact that it was really sabotaged by its own producers, its own filmmakers, the music quality is not even on par. It's not even in the same league as what John Williams did. The visual quality, all of it was just compromised for this movie for what? A dumb reason. And the fact that they couldn't get Jee Hackman to come back, I've heard two reasons why Jee Hackman didn't come back for the film. I heard it's either he was being loyal to Richard Donner or he was filming another movie and he wasn't available. Either way, I would have really liked it if Jee Hackman came back and they didn't dub his voice because that sounded horrible. And the stupid, oh, give up your powers even though you totally don't have to because I broke the rules in the first movie. If I break the rules in this movie, it's not gonna matter. And plus I've had girlfriends in the future, so what's the point of this? Stupid, dumb. It really made me think differently of Superman. I thought, Superman has never been more humiliated. I thought that looked terrible. It was a bad look for Superman. But yeah, guys, that's my opinion on Superman 2. I think the original theatrical version was a nightmare. It was a disaster, bad movie with some good scenes. The Richard Donner cut, again, it's a lot better, but it's not what it's supposed. It's more like a what could have been. Again, it's not his original vision because he did have to use some modern special effects. So we were robbed of what could have been an awesome entry follow-up to an amazing, visually beautiful film. We could have had that, but now there's modern CGI. The ending, I do think the Richard Donner version makes more sense connecting to the first movie because Superman was supposed to throw that missile into space and that's what frees them, as opposed to the Eiffel Tower opening, which was terrible in this movie. Oh, it was terrible. So again, Superman 2, what could have been? I think it had the makings to be one of, if not the greatest superhero movie ever. It could have been the best superhero movie. It could have beaten the original, but the fact that that had that stupid plot device and it had the sabotaged from the film production. That's why I don't really like this movie. It's unfortunate. You know what the real tragedy is? The real tragedy is the only good Superman movie is the first one. All the other sequels to this were not so good. Number three was bad and only has one scene that makes it worth watching. Number 4, I haven't even seen number 4, but I've seen clips of it. It looked horrible. It's considered the worst movie ever made. I actually, to be fair, I did like Superman Returns with Brandon Routh, and Man of Steel was okay, but there's only one good Superman movie, and that's the first one. This one is not so good. But yeah, that's my opinion on Superman 2. Actually, you know what? I will say this. If you watch the original version where Superman has gone back to the Fortress of Solitude and he's trying to reclaim his powers, and it's just like ambiguous how he gets his powers back. The scene between Marlon Brando and Christopher Reeve, the father-son moment where he's like, this is the last time we're ever going to speak. You've made a grave mistake.
You did this of your own free will.
That was a proper redemption scene. Like, Superman made a dumb mistake, a selfish mistake, and he paid dearly for it. And he goes back.
Now you've returned to me for one last chance to redeem yourself.
And he redeems himself by his father giving him his powers back, touching him, and he's all like, ugh. That, to me, is actually a great scene. I really wish they didn't cut that, because the fact that Marlon Brando's not in the second movie is just, it ruins it. But that could have been great. I'm sorry. I do want to say, though, that this video isn't so much scripted as that it's an unscripted rant about my feelings on the movie. So if it's out of order, if it's out of pace, and I'm kind of rambling, just know that I didn't actually script this. I'm just unscripted ranting about this film.
Haven't you ever heard of freedom of the press?
But anyway, guys, that is my true opinion on Superman 2. I think it was a disaster. It could have been better, and we were robbed of potentially the greatest superhero movie ever made. Be that as it may, guys. What did you think about Superman 2? Comment below. Let me know. Honestly, give me your honest opinion about this movie. If you disagree with me, obviously let me know. Comment below. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, share, hit that notification to ring the bell, get notified anytime a new video of mine comes out. Follow me on Instagram, linked in the description below. And that's all I have for you guys. So I'll see you on the next Unpopular Opinion.